How's it going, Rams? Welcome back to yet another edition of CTV Sports. I'm Lee Kakowski.
And I'm Mike Walsh. Here's what we'll be rolling into tonight.
CSU men's and women's basketball took on Wyoming over the weekend. Did they both take the dub? Find out and see.
Things are getting down to the wire in Colorado high school basketball. Hear what Gideon and Dylan have to say about the most pressing matchups.
And finally, Local Beats is tomorrow, which means we just had to guess some of the themes from some of our favorite sports movies. You won't want to miss it.
All of that and more on CTV Sports, which starts right now. Let's tip things off tonight with the sellout crowd that filled Moby this past Friday, where the second rendition of this year's Border War came to Fort Collins. By the time the final buzzer sounded in this one, the Rams had successfully enacted revenge on their hated rivals from up north, avenging the close 1-point L they took 1 month ago and ultimately handing the Pokes a decisive 13-point loss, in addition to, of course, cementing this now 8-20 Wyoming squad as the worst team in the conference this season. And as a cherry on top, this one was also a historical night for one pretty great player, but more on that later. Looking at the tape, Friday night's performance was probably one of CSU's best games of the entire season. Although the Cowboys made a few runs, it never really felt like the Rams were ever in any real danger, holding on to the lead most of the contest and always having a response when UW started to get hot. As you can guess, with a dub like this, a huge factor in this one was teamwork, with every single player who got on the court for the Rams scoring a basket. And as I said earlier, this one was in front of a completely sold-out crowd, so of course the energy in the arena was also infectious. After the win, Coach Medved and his guys raved about how much the green and gold faithful mean to them, especially in a critical rivalry game. And while we love seeing some winning highlights, we don't mind reading some winning numbers. And that is exactly what the Rams gave us. Besting the Cowboys in field goal percentage, three-point percentage, and free throw percentage. But hey, there is more to a game than efficiency, like rebounding and passing, which CSU also dominated in, grabbing 13 more boards and dishing out 6 more dimes than the guys in the brown and yellow. So yeah, not much to be excited about if you're a Wyoming fan, but hey, at least the Cowboys took the win in steals and blocks by 1 each, right? But in any event, as I alluded to earlier, the matchup on Friday night wasn't just highlighted by the win itself. As Rams star point guard Isaiah Stevens passed Ellen Nystrom for the most assists in CSU basketball history. Truly an amazing feat for the green and gold legend, who has been said to have had this goal all the way from day one, at least according to Coach Medved. And keep in mind, Stevens also did it in an outing where he dished out a program record tying 12 assists, which, by the way, he had already done 3 other times in his career. But that's enough preaching from me. Let's now listen to Stevens reflecting on the accomplishment.
Man, I didn't even know I was close to the all-time. It was a female player, right? If I'm right? Yeah. Oh, man, that's big time. That is special to get everybody involved on the team. Like, that just doesn't really happen throughout the course of a game. So, they were really keyed in on me coming off my actions, and I just didn't want to really force the issue and set my teammates up, and they made the shot. So, shout out to them.
It's truly awesome to see how Isaiah's career has played out, and we can't wait what else he has for us this season and beyond. But that's enough about men's basketball. Leah, what's going on with the women?
Well, Mike, I wish I could say that the women had the same level of success against a similar foe in Wyoming, but unfortunately they weren't able to, falling in a 76-60 loss on the other side of the border, while also falling short of completing the season sweep on the Pokes. On Saturday night, the second half dominance from the Cowgirls is what truly made the difference. The reality is, both teams came out of the locker room pretty flat in the first, with neither breaking double digits. However, Wyoming was able to quickly adjust with the previously mentioned second half turnaround that eventually came, which was honestly completely due to Allison Fertig making an 8-0 run in the fourth, all by herself to seal the deal. Wow. Despite this, though, the Rams were in it for the majority of the time. They just relied way too much on McKenna Hofschild, Destiny Thurman, and Kendall Kinzer to bring in the buckets, with, unlike the men, the rest of the bench remaining quiet. But even despite all of that, the key to this one ended up being the major disparity in fouls between the two. As you can see, the green and gold nearly doubled the Pokes in personal fouls, clearly being the main underlying factor behind the loss. Not to mention that Wyoming was also way more successful from beyond the arc, even though they had way less attempts. Oh, and the Cowgirls were more aggressive in the paint too. CSU just didn't take as many chances when it came to their shot selection, and it ultimately had them continuously coming up short when it mattered the most. Overall, Coach Williams' squad has been a top contender in the Mountain West all season long, and a Wyoming win would have really solidified their number 3 spot in the standings. But in any event, they had to get over this one quickly because they're battling it out with Boise State as we speak. So here's how it's going so far in Moby Arena. So currently it is 32-21 CSU. 4 minutes, 31 seconds left in the second quarter. Some impressive stats. Hofschild already has 9 points and Kinzer with 5. Okay, I'm pretty confident about this so far. It looks like they have the lead, and I really hope they're going to take this one.
Yeah, I mean, McKenna Hofschild is just so good at the game of basketball. I just have full trust in that team, and I think they'll come out with the win.
I agree.
But all right, let's finally move on from the hardwood and on to the best of the best here at CSU, better known as the women's track and field team, who absolutely showed out this past weekend at the Indoor Conference Championships, edging the hosting New Mexico Lobos by just 1 point and ultimately taking home the dub. Heading back to Fort Collins with some brand new and well-earned hardware for the trophy case. And now let's look into the huge performances that made this win possible. As expected, Sarah Carter continued her reign of dominance, winning gold in both the 5K and 3K races. And on top of that win in the 3K, she also set the school record, as you can see here, at 9 minutes and 17 seconds for the event. And of course, she wasn't the only one setting records on this magical weekend either, with Gabby McDonald also setting a new school record for shot put at 17.55 meters, which was also good enough for silver. And rounding out the medal winners, we had Maya Lesnar winning bronze in the same event as Gabby, while Seelan Sturmer finished things out by grabbing silver in the pole vault. So a pretty successful outing for the Rams, to say the least. And to add to the feel-good weekend even more, their very own coach Brian Bedard was understandably named Track and Field Coach of the Year for the Mountain West Conference. And as one can expect, the team couldn't be more excited about both that outstanding honor and their championship win. It's always so cool to see the emotion of sports and just the passion that these ladies compete with day in and day out. And in any event, the men also competed down in Albuquerque as well. Leah, what happened with the boys?
Well, Mike, wow. I am so impressed on how the Rams did this past weekend. And yes, to answer your question, the men dominated as well. While they didn't take first on the podium, they still finished second in the team standings behind Air Force, which is a huge accomplishment in itself. And there are plenty of names to mention that took hardware home and made it all possible. These 6 Rams showed out, with Alan Bouchard arguably taking the cake out of all of these impressive accomplishments, with his 15.72 meter triple jump, earning that gold medal in the event. While Eldridge Harris also pole vaulted a whopping 5.15 meters. Wow. And to end things off, Michael Mooney, Ryan Berkier, and Mariano Kiss took second in their categories as well. First and second place finishes overall. Not too bad, right? And looking past this one now, with the indoor conference season now done, the NCAA championship meet will be here on March 10th. And how well they just did, it's needless to say that a few Rams will get their ticket back to New Mexico soon enough. And with that, it's now time to head back outside. Mike, what's going on with softball?
Well, Leah, the softball team also traveled down south over the weekend, heading to San Marcos for the Texas Classic. And while it didn't go terribly, it also didn't go amazing either for the green and gold. If you want a good analogy, I would say ask yourself, is the glass half full or half empty? In other words, do we celebrate the 3 wins even with the 3 losses? In any event, though, the Rams did put together some quality play, keeping it within reason in most games, except for their second and third ones against Texas State and Kansas, of course. But look at it this way, those L's are nothing for CSU to hang their heads at, as both of those schools sit well above 500 on the year so far. And hey, even with the setbacks, the Rams still walked away with 3 quality wins and a few runs scored on some pretty good teams, including dubs over 2 solid Texas programs in UTSA and UT Arlington. So it was a middle-of-the-pack kind of weekend for softball, but as these out-of-conference matchups oftentimes do, there were sure still a bunch of learning moments to improve on. And luckily, they'll have quite a bit of time to implement these changes, with their next contest not coming until March 10th. Hopefully, Coach Fisher and crew can regroup and go CSU and win the GCU Invitational once spring break hits.
And